All right, now everybody remembers where we left Clyde Peters yesterday, right? Where was he? Speak up, I need to hear shh. He was in the jungle, he lost all of his stuff. He was trying to rescue people from that plane crash, and he was drinking water out of a jungle stream, and a crocodile started to charge at him. And like I already warned you yesterday, you're not going to hear today what happened. If you want to hear the end of that part of his story, you will need to be here next Sabbath for the morning meeting, because that's when we'll finish it, okay? But we are going to hear a lot more exciting stories about Clyde Peters' life. We're jumping back in history to start from when he was a kid, and we'll start hearing about the adventures that he had. Clyde Peters grew up on a farm in Kansas. Anybody here from Kansas? Anyone here from Kansas? Well, they have a lot of farms in Kansas. You're from Kansas? You're not from Kansas, but you've heard of Kansas? All right, you're a friend of Kansas? All right. So, Kansas has a lot of farms. Like Wisconsin has a lot of farms too, but a lot of the space of the Kansas is taken up with farming. And he grew up on a farm, and his dad had been farming that farm before he did, and his grandparents had been farming it, and lots of people have been on that farm. But now Clyde was not interested in being a farmer when he grew up. You know what Clyde wanted to be? He wanted to be a paratrooper. See, Clyde had been a boy just as World War II was ending. And he got to watch all these old black and white films, newsreels, of all the action that had been going on in World War II over in Europe and over in the Pacific. And he'd been able to see film of these paratroopers who would get into the plane with their big parachute pack on. They'd go up in the sky over enemy territory, and they'd leap out of a perfectly good plane, and then just come down while there's guns shooting up, and they'd have to try to find their way down, and then they'd land, and then they'd go and hide, and they might be spies, they might be setting up bombs, who knows what. It looked so exciting, and he wanted to be a paratrooper. The problem was, now, there was no World War going on, and he couldn't do anything because he was about 7 years old anyways. Or could he? Maybe he could do some paratrooper training on his own. And so Clyde decided to do something that maybe some of you have thought of doing before, but I hope you've never done before. Not the barn roof. It was a good guess. He did not jump off the barn roof, just the chicken coop. But the chicken coop was still a pretty tall chicken coop. And he jumped off using a parachute. What do you think he used? What's a natural parachute? A sheet? No. Not a blanket. Oh, I heard it. Not a bag. An umbrella. His mom's nice big umbrella, which did not work. It immediately turned inside out, and he dropped flat to the ground, broke the umbrella, twisted up his ankle, and his father had to have a talk with him behind the chicken coop about never jumping out of things that are high up in the air again. And Clyde did promise his dad at the time, I won't jump out of high things. But as you're going to guess, that promise didn't last his whole life. Well, as he got older, he became a teenager, and he was going to go to academy, and his parents wanted him to go to the Seventh-day Adventist Academy at Campmeeting, so that's where he went, and he was glad to go to the academy, but what he was even more glad to do while he was at academy was, hey, I'm away from home for the first time, I could take flying lessons. Because even if I'm never going to jump out of a plane, because that's what I promised my dad, I wouldn't jump out of high things, I could at least learn to fly. So he started working extra hard, doing side jobs, and using that money to take flying lessons. And after about 3 or 4 flying lessons, and doing all the extra work to pay for those flying lessons, how do you think his grades were doing? No, his grades were kind of, his grades had jumped off the chicken coop. And his parents went, what's going on? How come your grades are doing so bad? And he confessed to them, Mom, Dad, I want to know how to fly, and I've been taking flying lessons, and I'm paying for it myself. I'm not taking it from the money that you sent me to go to school. And his parents said, well, that's okay. Thank you for confessing to us, and you can go ahead and keep doing that. Well, now he was so excited to be a pilot. And when it came time to become a college student, his parents said, we want you to go to a good Adventist university. How about Union College? Anybody know where that is? What state that's in? Nebraska. That's right, Lincoln, Nebraska. And boy, everybody was so excited. His parents were excited because he was going to an Adventist college. Clyde was excited because one of the top aviation schools in the country was also located in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so if he was at school doing his college work, he could also at the same time be taking more flying lessons. What do you think he spent more time doing? Oh, taking flying lessons, working to pay for flying lessons. So that means that he got a job as a crop duster, flying a little plane that would fly over farms and drop the pesticides. And then he also got a job as a mechanic working at an airport. And he also had another job, and another job, and another job. And in the middle of all that, he managed to find a girl that wanted to marry him. Her name was Eleanor. And he promised Eleanor, because Eleanor also said, you fly planes? That sounds kind of scary. He's like, no, come on, I'll take you up in a plane. And she tolerated it. She didn't like heights very much, but she was okay. But when he had mentioned to her that he used to want to jump out of a plane, she said, oh, promise me you'll never jump out of a plane. Okay. That was 2 people he had promised he'd never jump out of a plane. And he also managed to get his college degree eventually. But that was low on his priority list. And now it was time to decide what he was going to do. Well, he got a job after college working as the pilot for a parachute club. A parachute club is like a place, usually near an airstrip, where people who want to jump out of an airplane come, and then they have working there a plane and the mechanic to keep the plane going and a pilot to fly the plane and people to run the office. Well, he was able to be the pilot and the mechanic because he was so well trained already. And he would take people up in the plane, woo! He would fly up there. The jump master in the back would tell them, all right, here's how you have your things on, make sure you're all set. Okay, ready, go, 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 go. And he would lead them out and he would jump out with them. And then Clyde would be stuck in the plane, an empty plane now, flying it back down to the ground. That got kind of boring. And so Clyde talked to the jump master and said, hey, what would it take for me to learn to jump out of a plane? Just asking. Because of course he promised his dad and then more recently his wife he would never jump out of a plane. And the jump master gave him all sorts of really neat statistics about just how safe it is nowadays. You know, it's 1959, 1960. They've got the most modern technology and it's no problem at all. I mean, hardly anybody dies. Okay, maybe I want to try this. I've always wanted to jump out of a plane. And so do you know what Clyde started doing? He started taking parachuting lessons. And he didn't tell anybody at first. But after about 2 times jumping out of a plane, he felt so guilty about it. He went and he confessed to Eleanor. Eleanor, I need to tell you something. I've been working at a parachute club, as you know, and I started taking jumping lessons. And I feel really bad I didn't tell you. And she forgave him. And she did say, if you feel that this is something you're going to do and that it's going to help you in some way, because you know that you and I have talked about wanting to do something for God eventually, and you've been preparing to work for God maybe as a pilot, maybe as a mechanic, and if you think that maybe God can use you as a jumper, as a parachutist, to be able to help other people, go ahead. Now, can you think of some ways that people who jump out of an airplane could jump out of an airplane with a parachute to help others? Not to jump out with a gun blazing and to land and place bombs and spy behind enemy territory. Is there ways you can jump out of an airplane and help others? Anybody have any ideas? Raise your hand. Raise your hand, Justin. Yes, Justin, you are now called upon.
Yes, a lot of times when there's fires, they actually have jumpers that jump ahead and clear runways and different things.
Smoke jumpers. They jump out and they go into places where there's forest fires going on. They get ahead of the fire. They're able to set up bases there. Anybody else? Ooh, a remote village where there's an illness and they need to be able to get medication in there or some kind of supplies. There's no airstrip, so maybe they got to just parachute in. Exactly. Yes? Getting missionaries or even other types of people too. Missionaries, rescuers, explorers into other places. One more. Yes, sir. Helping people to not die in the jungle. Like they might be able to jump in there and save their life. Yes. So there's many ways you can use it. And as Clyde and Eleanor talked, they decided, yeah, we'll be able to use this in some good ways. So Clyde kept on going, and he eventually became the 178th person in the United States to ever become a jump master. A jump master had to be specially trained and certified, had to do at least 200 jumps from a plane, including at least 5 jumps from a height of 18,000 feet. How high is 18,000 feet? Well, how long is a mile, approximately? Anybody know how many feet in a mile? 5,280. Very good. So 18,000 feet is a little more than 3 miles up in the sky. Not 3 miles that way, 3 miles that way. And he had to do those, and he successfully landed all of those, and he became a certified jump master. And by now he was also certified small plane pilot, large plane pilot, helicopter pilot, mechanic, industrial mechanic. He had 10 different licenses for all the things that he had learned. He had lots of skills, but he still didn't have a way to use them for God until in 1963 he saw something. There was a missionary movie shown at the university, at the college, Union College, and he attended with his family, and he saw black and white film of mission pilots. And he said, that's what I could be. I could go to a mission field and I could be a pilot. And his wife said, well, do you want to try to reach out to the people who are already mission pilots in that part of the world, wherever that is taking place? I think it was over in the Pacific at that time. And he said, no. I want to find a part of the world where there's no Adventist mission pilots yet. That's what I want to do. And so he wrote a letter to the conference, and he said, could you please look on your map and find a place where there's no mission pilots and send me there? Wow, that's real adventuresome. That's really brave. But he was going to constantly go wherever he could go to follow Jesus and lead and tell other people about him and help them. And so he got a letter back. We would like to interview you. Come on in. And they talked to him about all his skills, how he was a jump master, and had all this training. And they said, well, here's the thing. The place that we don't have any mission pilots yet, we've got a plane that we want to send to South America, to the country of Peru. But we don't have a pilot for it yet. It would be the first Adventist mission plane to go to South America. We've named it the Fernando Stall. The Fernando Stall is named after one of the first Adventist missionaries who went to South America. We're going to send this plane out, but we don't have a pilot yet. Would you like to go there? And Clyde said, well, sure. There's just one little problem. Just a small thing. I don't speak Spanish. And they said, oh, you don't speak Spanish. Clyde thought he wasn't going to get a job. He went back home and he waited to see if he would get a letter. Waiting and waiting. Meantime, he was getting letters from other places. See, the thing is, Clyde was well known in the aviation community. He was so trained, and yet he was only just working little jobs on his own. Why do you think that was? Why wouldn't a big, well-trained, skilled pilot like Clyde already have a big job with some big airline company? Why do you think? Yeah. No, there actually were a lot of big airline corporations. It's a good guess, though. But here's the other clue you need in order to answer the question. Clyde, who was so well trained, had so many licenses, and was a Seventh-day Adventist. How come he couldn't get a job with a big airline company? Yes. He refused to work on Sabbath. He said, Sabbath is my day of rest. Sabbath is the day that I can spend special with God and my family. I can't work on Sabbath. And so all the big airline companies kept turning him down. Now he was waiting to hear if he would get hired by the conference, and he was waiting, and he got a letter from a company that said, hey, listen, we're so desperate to get a pilot, we'll guarantee in writing you'll never work on a Sabbath. Come work for us. Oh, what a temptation now. This was a well-established airline company. He'd have lots of money. He'd have all sorts of benefits. They'd handle all the maintenance. He wouldn't have to be a mechanic working on his planes himself. He would just be a pilot. He'd just get to stride in, wearing the nice big suit with a hat, and just fly the big planes. He'd always wanted to do that. But he had already said he wanted to go as a mission pilot. And Eleanor said, we need to first keep our promise to God. If God says not to go to South America, okay, then we'll go ahead and take this job. So he took the letter from the airline company and he put it on the table by the front door. And every day as he walked in to check the mail, he checked the table to see if there was any other letters there. 2 weeks went by. Oh, maybe I should just go ahead and get back to them. They're gonna give the job to somebody else, and then I'll be out, and then maybe the conference won't hire me, and then I won't have a job at all. But he kept praying about it, and the day that he finally thought, you know what, I'm gonna have to just let him know I'll take that job with the airline company, the letter arrived from the conference, and yes, they hired him, and they said, we got a plan. We understand you don't speak Spanish, but we've been figuring this out. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to fly the Fernando Stall for us down from Pacific Union College, which is in Northern California, and you're going to fly it all the way to Lima, Peru. And when you get there, we'll have your family join you on a regular airline, and you guys will spend a couple months in Lima, Peru, and then you can practice learning Spanish there and get all the licenses you need to get the plane license for flying in South America and get your self-license for flying in Peru, and then you'll be all set to go out to our mission station in Yarinacocha. Our mission station, where we have a small hospital, but it's really isolated out there. Okay, that sounds great, Clyde said. When do I leave? They said, very soon. We're just getting a co-pilot to go with you. I don't need a co-pilot. I can just fly it on myself. No, they said. You're going to want a co-pilot. Why am I going to want a co-pilot? Well, have you looked at a map, Clyde? The distance from Pacific Union College to Lima, Peru is 5,000 miles. That's a long ways to go. You need another pilot to fly with you in case one of you is injured or tired or anything like that, and you're going to need to stop along the way to fuel up. Oh, yeah, it's a big trip. Okay, all right, that's good to know. They got ready to do the trip, and he was talking to Eleanor about it, about all the plans. And he said, Eleanor, I'm a little nervous because I've never flown across, like, big ocean waters before. I'm going to fly over part of the Gulf of Mexico at one point, and it's a long distance. You know, I think we can do it. I think I should do it. This is what God called me to do. And Eleanor said, you got to remember, Clyde, we've promised Jesus we're going to go anywhere he wants us to go. And that's why our family claims that special song. Anywhere with Jesus I can safely go. Anywhere he leads me in this world below. Anywhere without him, dearest joys would fade. Anywhere with Jesus I am not afraid. And Clyde said, you're right, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it, we'll go for it. God is going to get us there. And sure enough, within a couple of days, Clyde and his co-pilot, whose name was Don Weber, left from Pacific Union College flying the Fernando Stall. And thankfully, the Fernando Stall didn't do what its name sounds like. Because if you've ever been in a plane and a plane stalls, you don't want a plane to stall. But this was spelled differently anyways. It was a different kind of stall. Well, they flew and they flew and they flew until they got over Mexico. They were flying over part of the country of Mexico now. And they were looking down. They could see jungle in large areas below them. And they could see occasionally little openings in the jungle. There'd be little houses or a little village. And sometimes even an airstrip, a jungle airstrip, maybe where a village had built an airstrip, or there was a rich person who might live out there and they had like an airstrip with their little jungle home, something like that. He didn't know. As they were flying, they realized, uh-oh, there's big storm clouds coming up. We're going to have to turn back. Our little plane can't manage these big storms. Let's turn back. And they flew back. And they're like, there was a jungle strip. We just flew by a little bit. We'll go back there and just land there so we can ride out the storm because we can't fly through it. And as they got closer, they saw the airstrip. They saw there were some big buildings all around the airstrip and then a really beautiful mansion a little ways away from the airstrip, all in this beautiful clearing cut out in the jungle. They came down and landed. They said, well, hopefully these people won't mind that we landed here. And, you know, usually people are okay if it's an emergency and our plane has to land somewhere. They don't want us to just fall out of the sky. They'll be happy to see us. Maybe they'll even treat us kindly. Maybe they'll even, like, you know, I don't know, feed us or something. Who knows? You never know. They landed. The plane came down to the end of the airstrip, turned around and started coming back up to where the little hangars were for putting planes away and where there's little buildings. And as they came up, they saw 6 men on horses riding out to them. Oh, look, there's already people coming out to greet us. Wow, that's great. And as the men came a little closer, they said, wait a second, what's that in their hands? What, is that a... Clyde poked on. Are those what I think they are? And Don said, Clyde, those look like machine guns to me. And we'll find out tomorrow what happened.